Hello and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that is so fundamental to gut health, but somehow it always seems to get overlooked. We're talking about motility. Think of it as the powerful, unseen engine that's driving your entire digestive system. So, I want to kick things off with a big question, especially for anyone out there who feels like they've tried every diet, chased every symptom, and you're still just stuck. What if the real key to your gut issues isn't what you're eating, but how your gut is actually moving? Let's unpack that because it's a game changer. So, what even is gut motility? Well, in the simplest terms, it's the whole coordinated system of muscle squeezes that moves food all the way through your digestive tract. The best analogy, it's like a super smart conveyor belt in a factory. It has to move things along at just the right speed to make sure everything gets processed, absorbed, and then, eliminated correctly. Now, to really get why things go wrong, we first have to appreciate how a healthy gut is supposed to work. Because it's not just a bunch of random squeezing. Oh no, it's a beautifully orchestrated dance with very specific rhythms. Okay, one of the star players in this rhythm is something called the migrating motor complex, or MMC for short. I want you to think of this as your gut's personal housekeeping crew. And here's the catch. It only comes out to work when you're not eating, in that space between meals. It goes through a few phases, but the one we really care about is phase 3. This is a massive, powerful wave that sweeps through your small intestine, clearing out leftover food, bacteria, and all sorts of debris, pushing it down into the colon. This cleansing wave is absolutely vital for keeping things clean and preventing bacteria from setting up camp where they don't belong. So the MMC is for housekeeping, right? But what about when you're actually digesting food? Well, then two other key motions take over. Over on the left, we've got peristalsis. This is that classic wave-like motion, kind of like squeezing a tube of toothpaste to push everything forward. And on the right, you have segmentation. This is less about pushing forward and more about mixing. It's a localized churning that makes sure your food gets all mixed up with digestive enzymes. You need both for good digestion. And this whole thing is way more complex than it sounds. It's really a symphony with a bunch of different players. You've got the smooth muscles doing the heavy lifting, but they're taking orders from the enteric nervous system, which is so complex, scientists actually call it our second brain. Then you have hormones like motility that give the signal for the MMC to start, and even these special pacemaker cells, called ICCs, that set the beat like a metronome for your gut. So what happens when that carefully coordinated dance gets disrupted? This is exactly where motility problems become a root cause for so many gut disorders that people struggle with every single day. Motility issues really boil down to two main problems. Things are moving too slow, or they're moving way too fast. When motility is too slow, we call that hypomotility. Food just sits there, it stagnates, and it starts to ferment. This is what leads to constipation, a ton of gas, and that awful, painful bloating. It's a huge factor in conditions like SIBO, gastroparesis, and IBS-C. Now, on the flip side, if things are moving too fast, hypermotility, your body just doesn't have enough time to pull out all the nutrients, and that can lead to diarrhea and malabsorption. This is what you see a lot with IBS-D. But it's not always just about the speed. Sometimes the problem is that the rhythm is just completely off. The contractions are chaotic. We call this dysmotility. So instead of a nice smooth wave pushing everything forward, you get these messy patterns that end up trapping gas and stool. That's where that feeling of painful, distended bloating comes from. The pressure just builds up with nowhere to go. So you're probably asking, what's controlling all of this? Who's the conductor of this whole orchestra? Well, while the gut has its own brain, the ultimate conductor is your central nervous system. The link between your brain and your gut is incredibly powerful, and it directly controls motility. And right at the heart of this connection is the vagus nerve. Just picture a giant information superhighway running all the way from your brain down into your gut, constantly sending signals back and forth. This nerve is the main line for our rest and digest system, and having a healthy, happy vagus nerve is absolutely critical for healthy gut motility. This slide really breaks it down. When you're calm and feeling safe, your body is in rest and digest mode. The vagus nerve is humming along, telling your gut, hey, it's all good, time to digest food and run those cleaning waves. But the moment you get stressed, your body flips into fight or flight mode. And in that state, digestion is considered non-essential. So if you're living in a state of chronic stress, your digestive system is basically getting the off signal all the time. It's no wonder symptoms flare up when you're stressed out. All right, so it's pretty clear this is a complex system, and that means motility issues can come from a lot of different places. Let's dig into some of the most common root causes and, more importantly, the telltale signs that your gut's movement might be off. It's really important to know that these disorders usually have a real physical cause. We're talking about things like actual nerve damage, maybe from a nasty bout of food poisoning that injured the nerves, or even from a past surgery. Certain medications are famous for slowing everything down, and now we're learning just how much chronic inflammation, damage to those pacemaker cells, and even imbalances in your gut bacteria can throw the whole system out of whack. So, how does this actually feel? Do any of these sound familiar? You eat a totally normal meal and it feels like a rock is just sitting in your stomach for hours. You take 2 bites of food and you're suddenly stuffed. You have this horrible trapped gas, or you're just chronically bloated. And here's a huge clue. If you wake up in the morning already feeling bloated, that's a big sign your MMC housekeeping crew didn't do its job overnight. For others, it's that frustrating cycle of constipation one day and diarrhea the next.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the problem. Let's switch gears and talk about solutions. The great news is that when you understand motility, you open up a whole new toolbox of strategies. And it's not about forcing your gut to do something, it's about creating the right environment for it to heal itself. And that really brings us to this core idea. You can't just find one magic pill or supplement and expect it to fix a complex motility problem. It doesn't work that way. The real goal is to create an environment where your body's own amazing, intelligent systems can finally get back to doing their job properly. So here are some really powerful things you can start doing. First off, meal spacing. Giving your gut a solid 4 to 5 hour break between meals is literally the only way that MMC cleaning crew can get to work. If you're snacking all day, it never gets a chance. Second, and this is non-negotiable, you have to support your nervous system. You've got to find ways to manage stress and tell your body it's safe to rest and digest. Simple things help too, like a gentle walk after you eat. And of course, for some people, medical support with things called prokinetics, which are specific herbs or meds that stimulate motility, can be a huge help, but that's a conversation to have with your doctor.
I really want to wrap this up on a hopeful note, because once you start to understand the role of motility in your health, you gain back so much power. You're no longer just guessing.
And if you take away just one thing today, please let it be this. The very first step isn't about buying a new supplement. It's about becoming a detective for your own body. Start paying attention. Notice your patterns. What does stress really do to your digestion? Understanding your unique triggers is the foundation for everything else. And the payoff for doing this work is massive. When you start to support your gut's natural rhythm, you're not just fixing your digestion, you're improving how well you absorb nutrients, which is directly tied to your energy levels. You're reducing the backup that drives inflammation. You are truly getting to a root cause that sends positive ripples through your entire body. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought to chew on. For so many people who have been struggling for years, just focusing on food has only gotten them so far. What if shifting your focus to the movement of your gut, to that unseen engine, is the single most powerful lever you have for real, lasting healing? Thanks so much for watching.